Hey, tonight we're exploring whether your brain can see the future. The words arrive slowly, like ripples across still water, and you let them settle. There's a kind of hush in the room around you, as if the air itself leans in, waiting for your attention. You imagine yourself standing at the edge of a quiet path, the kind where the night sky hangs low and the stars glow just faintly enough to remind you of the vastness beyond. The thought of the future feels the same way, close enough to sense, but far enough to never hold. You probably won't survive this world unchanged, but that's the point. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy quiet stories like this. And if you're still awake, share your location and the time where you are right now. Somewhere out there, someone else might be listening at the same hour, under a sky that feels completely different. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin with a simple question. What does it mean to sense tomorrow before it arrives? Your mind likes to linger on mysteries that can't be answered right away, and this one has always had a strange pull. The idea that the brain is not only reacting to the world, but quietly reaching into the next moment feels both impossible and entirely natural. After all, haven't you sometimes known what someone was about to say, or felt a phone vibrate before it actually did? As you walk through this thought, your imagination drifts into the space of déjà vu, that odd sensation where the present feels rehearsed, as if a shadow of the experience had already happened, waiting patiently in memory. Science explains some of it through misfires of recognition, neural circuits that mislabel the moment as familiar. Yet there's still a faint shimmer of unease each time it happens, as if the boundary between past and future grew thin and you glimpsed through it. The brain is a restless oracle. Neurons are always firing just ahead of what you see, hear, or touch because the world moves too quickly for pure reaction. That's the quietly fascinating fact you rest on now. When light enters your eyes, the image takes about 1/10 of a second to process. In that gap, your brain projects what it thinks should be there, filling in the missing frames. Technically, you live just behind reality, relying on constant prediction to catch up. The eerie part is that you don't notice this delay. The world feels seamless because your brain is always leaning into the future. And in this leaning, strange questions arise. If every step you take is already shaped by hidden forecasts, then how much of tomorrow is already written in you? You picture a bird gliding on a current of air. It seems effortless, but really it's 1,000 micro-adjustments, wings shifting with every gust. The bird doesn't know the exact pattern of the wind, yet it anticipates enough to move gracefully. Maybe your thoughts work the same way, caught between uncertainty and foresight. There's something eerie about realizing your body sometimes moves before your mind catches up. You've slammed the brakes while driving before fully registering the danger. You've reached out a hand to catch a glass falling before you even thought of it. These moments whisper that part of you already lives a half beat ahead, predicting what is about to happen and letting the rest of you follow. But researchers still wonder if there's more to it. Are these just fast reflexes and predictive coding? Or could there be deeper layers of foresight we don't yet understand? In old studies, subtle patterns suggested that the body sometimes reacts milliseconds before random events like a sudden image flashing on a screen. Skeptics call it noise, chance fluctuations. Others call it the faintest trace of precognition. You drift further into the thought. Imagine standing at a shoreline, watching waves roll in. Each crest forms far out in the water before reaching you, but you only see it fully when it breaks at your feet. The ocean knew it was coming. Maybe your brain is like that, picking up swells before they crash into conscious awareness. And so you wander into reflection. If your brain really does see into the future, even for fractions of a second, then what does that mean for choice? Are you deciding your next step freely, or are you simply becoming aware of what was already set in motion? It feels like standing in a hallway with doors on either side, each one slightly ajar. You imagine opening one, but perhaps your hand was already reaching before you knew it. The thought isn't frightening. It's strangely comforting, like a dream that knows its own direction, carrying you forward without asking too much of you. You let yourself trust the quiet possibility that tomorrow is already brushing against you, just faintly, like a breeze before the storm.
You drift deeper into the quiet of the question, as though following a soft thread through the fabric of night. Somewhere inside you, the idea of déjà vu begins to take shape again, not just as a fleeting trick of memory, but as an echo that arrives before the sound. You felt it before. A scene unfolds in front of you, and your body whispers, "I know this." The air feels charged, the light falls a certain way, and you could swear you've stood there already. Science has tried to soften the strangeness of it. Neurologists suggest it may be a brief misalignment between short-term and long-term memory, like two gears slipping against each other in the dark. One part of your brain labels a new event as something already lived, and the uncanny feeling blooms in you for a moment before fading. But explanations don't erase the experience itself. The familiarity feels real, even when you know it shouldn't. There's something quietly fascinating about how widespread déjà vu is. Surveys suggest that around 2/3 of people experience it, often in their teens or 20s, when the brain is still fine-tuning its networks. It rarely happens in childhood, and it fades as you grow older. You reflect on that detail and wonder if the brain, at its most flexible and searching, is most prone to pulling on the threads of future and past at once. And then there are the stranger reports. Déjà vu moments that don't just feel familiar, but seem to unfold exactly as someone sensed they would. A person enters a room, speaks the words you thought you already heard, and the alignment is perfect. It lingers in you, that eerie possibility, as if time momentarily looped or consciousness stepped ahead and then returned to drag the memory back. Historians have collected stories of déjà vu long before science gave it a name. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Plato described knowledge as something remembered from a prior existence, glimpsed again in this life. Centuries later, mystics treated the feeling as evidence of reincarnation or as proof that the soul drifts outside time, able to see what's coming before the body does. The brain might prefer a neat explanation about neurons, but the human spirit has always leaned toward mystery. You picture yourself walking through a narrow street at dusk. Shadows fall across the stones, and suddenly the place feels too familiar. You could describe the next turn, the curve of the wall, the smell of bread baking somewhere nearby. Whether or not it's true, the sensation alone makes you pause. And in that pause, you catch a fragment of wonder. What if you really are brushing against tomorrow, remembering it in advance? An unusual detail comes to mind. Some researchers once tried to induce déjà vu using virtual reality. By creating rooms with similar layouts but different textures and details, they triggered that odd feeling of repetition in participants, as if the brain was convinced it had already stood there. It worked, but only partially. The participants admitted the feeling was close, yet not the same as when it happened naturally. Something ineffable was missing, something beyond design. Perhaps that's the part science hasn't yet mapped, the subtle shiver that makes déjà vu feel almost supernatural. You let your mind play with the possibility that déjà vu is not a glitch at all, but a tiny glimpse of your brain slipping out of sync with time, leaning forward, catching a glimpse of what's about to happen and then rushing back into the present. And researchers still wonder if it's connected to something larger. Some studies link déjà vu with the brain's ability to detect patterns subconsciously, almost like a warning system. If you've seen enough similar rooms, walked through enough repeating streets, your mind might piece together a sense of familiarity without telling you why. It feels prophetic, but it may only be the unconscious gathering of details. Or maybe it's both. Maybe the brain's predictions sometimes blur into glimpses that feel like memory. You imagine lying in bed, eyes closed, and sensing a knock at the door just before it comes. Was it coincidence? Was it the faintest sound your conscious mind ignored? Or did your awareness wander a fraction ahead? The moment feels dreamlike, as if the future reached back to tap you on the shoulder. The reflection lingers as you drift further. Déjà vu is not proof of seeing the future, nor is it a denial of it. It's a reminder that your mind is layered, with timelines weaving and unweaving behind your thoughts. Perhaps the experience exists precisely to remind you that time isn't as simple as the ticking of a clock. And so you float there, between explanations. The scientist inside you nods at neural pathways, at misfires and predictive coding. The dreamer in you wonders about memory of the future, echoes that arrive before their source. Between them, you rest in the question, unhurried, soothed by its lack of resolution. The street in your mind fades now, replaced by the faint sensation of a hallway you've walked before, though you can't place when. The edges blur, the air is soft, and the future waits just beyond the next step.
You continue walking along the thread of thought, noticing how the idea of prediction weaves itself through everything you do. Your brain is never simply observing, it is always anticipating. You don't look at the world as it is, you look at the world as it is about to be. There's a calm inevitability in this realization, as though you've stepped onto a current that has been carrying you all along. A quietly fascinating fact emerges here. Neuroscientists call it predictive coding. Every moment, your brain is generating models of the world, and then comparing them with incoming sensory information. If what you sense matches your expectations, you move smoothly forward, barely noticing. If it doesn't, the brain adjusts its model, fine-tunes it, and tries again. In this way, you are not reacting to life. You are rehearsing it in advance. You notice it in simple acts. You reach to grasp a cup, and your brain has already calculated the weight, the distance, the arc of your hand. You step off a curb, and your mind forecasts the angle of your foot against the pavement. The world seems continuous because you are always slightly ahead of it, predicting what should come next and filling the gaps when reality lags. There's something eerie about realizing how much of what you see is guesswork. The color of the wall, the curve of a stranger's smile, these are stitched together from expectation and memory. In a sense, you aren't seeing reality at all. You're seeing your brain's best guess of reality. And most of the time, it guesses right. You drift into reflection. If the brain is constantly forecasting, then isn't every moment you live already tilted toward the future? You don't stand still in the present. You lean forward into what you believe is about to happen. That gentle lean is invisible most of the time. But if you pay attention, you can feel it. The way your thoughts form a step before your body moves. The way your body tenses before you even notice the noise. And researchers still wonder about the limits of this prediction. In studies of vision, participants are shown a moving dot that suddenly disappears. Strangely, people continued to see the dot for a fraction of a second, as if their brain refused to accept its absence and extended its path into the future. Was it an illusion,
Or was it a testament to how deeply your mind insists on anticipating the next frame of existence? You imagine walking through a forest at dusk. Branches sway in the dim light, and your brain predicts their motion, letting you step gracefully around them. The breeze shifts, and you know the leaves will rustle before they do. Every sense you have is slightly ahead, smoothing the world for you so you can move without hesitation. The forest itself feels alive with prediction, like 1,000 small futures blooming around you with every step. But what happens when the brain's forecast is wrong? The eerie detail here is that mistakes can feel like glimpses of another timeline. You expect someone to say one thing and they say another. You anticipate a movement that doesn't come. For an instant, you live in the shadow of a world that could have been, and then reality pulls you back. The sensation is subtle, but it lingers. You wonder if those mistakes are cracks where alternate futures slip through. And so you reflect on the mystery. Perhaps your brain isn't just trying to keep up with the present. It's sketching possibilities, whole futures branching out like veins of light, choosing the most likely one and discarding the rest. Most of the time, the chosen path aligns perfectly, but sometimes you catch the faint residue of the others, like footsteps fading in an empty hall. This thought stretches into something softer. Maybe the feeling of intuition, of knowing what comes next, is nothing more than your brain's predictive machinery running smoothly. Or maybe intuition is the rare moment when you sense the branching futures themselves. It's impossible to know, and that impossibility is strangely soothing. As you continue, the forest path in your mind fades into open space, where only the horizon remains. Your thoughts lean toward it, steady, unhurried. The prediction of what lies ahead doesn't need to be certain. It only needs to carry you forward. And so you move, carried by the invisible current of your own mind, always a breath ahead of the present moment.
You settle deeper into the rhythm of thought, and now you notice how the body itself seems to move in anticipation, as though a quiet intelligence beneath your awareness is already one step ahead. You recall moments when your hand rose before you even knew why, catching a glass as it slipped, reaching for a railing just before you stumbled, braking hard while driving without realizing what had startled you. These are not accidents. They are whispers from the body's hidden foresight. A quietly fascinating fact comes to you. Scientists have measured how the muscles sometimes respond milliseconds before the conscious brain registers an event. It's as if a secret messenger delivers the signal early, preparing the body for what the mind has not yet seen. Reaction time is not just reflex, it's prediction, grounded in countless rehearsals your nervous system has stored. The eerie part is how little you notice it. When your foot withdraws from a sharp object before you even feel pain, it's the body anticipating the sensation, sparing you the delay of thought. Pain itself is a prediction, a warning created before tissue damage becomes too severe. In a way, your body lives slightly in the future, and you are only catching up to it. You let this idea expand into reflection. If the body is always moving before you think, then where does free will fit in? You imagine yourself at a crossroads, pausing to choose left or right. Perhaps your hand is already twitching toward one path before you declare your decision. Perhaps the choice was made in the shadows of your nervous system, and your mind only stepped in afterward to claim it as its own. And researchers still wonder about this. In famous experiments by neuroscientist Benjamin Libet, brain scans revealed that the decision to move a finger could be detected seconds before participants reported consciously choosing to do so. The mind, it seems, lags behind the body's readiness. Are you the author of your actions, or are you simply the witness of what was already set in motion? You imagine yourself sitting at a quiet table, staring at a candle flame. The air trembles as the wick leans, and somehow you know which way the flame will flicker before it happens. Your chest tightens just before a sudden noise. Your muscles brace just before a door slams. The world feels less like a sequence of surprises and more like a set of gentle rehearsals your body is always performing. There is an unusual detail here, one that stays with you. In sports science, elite athletes often seem to react impossibly fast, returning a serve, dodging a blow, predicting where the ball will land before it even leaves the opponent's hand. Studies show they are not reacting faster than others, they are predicting better. Their bodies recognize subtle cues, a shoulder angle, a shift of weight, that point to what is about to happen. To watch them move is to watch foresight disguised as instinct. You reflect on how your own life works the same way, though less dramatically. You cross a street because you trust the driver will stop. You open your mouth to speak because you anticipate the rhythm of conversation. Each moment is shaped not by the present, but by what you believe is coming next. And if that belief is sometimes wrong, it only shows you how fragile and fluid the future really is. As the thought deepens, you imagine a moment when everything slows. A glass tips, liquid arcs in the air, and time seems to stretch around you. You reach out, and in that suspended instant, you wonder, did you know this was going to happen? Or did your body simply leap into the space before your mind could? The difference blurs until it no longer matters. The anticipation becomes a kind of comfort. To live slightly ahead of yourself is to be carried along by a rhythm you don't fully control. Like a tide pulling you toward shore, you are both guided and guiding, both predicting and surrendering. The body leans into tomorrow, and you lean into the body, trusting that it knows the way. The candle flame in your mind flickers once more, and you realized you knew it would. Not because you can see the future, but because part of you was already there, waiting for the flame to dance.
You drift now into the strange landscape of dreams, where time does not obey the same rules as waking life. You've had nights where your mind wandered through images so vivid they clung to you even after the sun rose. Sometimes those dreams seemed meaningless, like scattered fragments stitched together from the day. But other times they felt heavier, carrying the unsettling sense that they belonged not just to memory, but to something still to come. A quietly fascinating fact emerges here. In the late 1800s, psychiatrist Sigmund Freud collected hundreds of reports of dreams that appeared to predict the future. Some were mundane, a dream of meeting an old friend before unexpectedly running into them the next day. Others were haunting, like dreams of accidents or losses that eerily mirrored the events to follow. Freud dismissed many of these as coincidences, yet he admitted the sheer volume of accounts was difficult to ignore. The eerie detail that lingers is how dreams sometimes slip beyond probability. Soldiers in World War I described dreaming of being wounded the night before it happened. A few passengers even claimed to dream of disasters before boarding doomed ships. You can dismiss them as memory reshaped by hindsight, but still the thought clings, what if the dreaming mind peers into corners of time the waking mind cannot reach? You imagine yourself in a dream right now. The walls of your room ripple into something else, an open field beneath a gray sky. You see a figure walking toward you, though you cannot make out their face. There is no fear, only a strange familiarity, as if you've walked this path before. You wake, hours later, and the face you could not place belongs suddenly to someone you meet that day. You pause, wondering if your mind had already known. And researchers still wonder about this phenomenon. Neuroscience shows that during sleep, your brain is busy reorganizing, replaying fragments of memory, testing scenarios for the future. It simulates possibilities,
rehearses responses, and prepares you for what might come. Most of those rehearsals will never happen, but every now and then, reality may align with the dream. Is that prophecy? Or simply the law of large numbers, an infinite rehearsal that occasionally matches the stage? You reflect quietly. Maybe dreams don't predict in the mystical sense. Maybe they are just simulations so vast, some are bound to stumble upon truth. Yet the mystery remains, the sheer feeling that a dream sometimes knows more than it should. The mind, in its nightly wandering, might be writing not only the past, but also the future in its restless ink. An unusual detail floats to the surface. In 1966, psychiatrist John Barker founded what he called the British Premonitions Bureau, where people could report dreams or visions of disasters. To his surprise, some predictions aligned uncannily with real tragedies. The Bureau eventually faded, dismissed as coincidence and chance, but the records remain, a paper archive of dreams that seem to lean into tomorrow. You let yourself drift with this idea. Imagine falling asleep tonight and dreaming of a conversation you haven't had yet, a place you haven't seen. When it comes to pass, would you believe your brain glimpsed the future? Or would you reassure yourself that it was only your imagination preparing you for it? The boundary between the two is as thin as fog at dawn. And so you walk through the dreamlike field again in your mind. The figure approaches, still faceless, and when you finally reach them, they vanish like mist. You are left with only the echo, the strange pulse of recognition, and the gentle uncertainty of whether you dreamed forward or simply dreamed deeply. You breathe into that uncertainty now, letting it soothe rather than disturb. The dream is not a warning. It is a reminder that your mind does not end at the edge of the present. It drifts outward, testing futures like doors waiting to be opened. Whether those doors lead anywhere or not is a mystery that doesn't need to be solved tonight. For now, you close your eyes within the story, feeling the weight of dreams still hovering around you, and you let them linger like a soft veil between this moment and the next.
You let your thoughts drift beneath the surface now, into the deeper chambers of the mind, where patterns gather quietly in the dark. If your waking self is a lantern, casting light only a few steps ahead, then your subconscious is the night sky, vast, layered, filled with countless invisible threads that stretch further than you can see. Sometimes those threads tighten, pulling at you with hints of what's to come. A quietly fascinating fact comes to rest in your awareness. Your subconscious processes far more information than your conscious mind could ever handle. Every glance, every tone of voice, every subtle shift in the air leaves an imprint. Studies show that even when you don't notice, your brain is calculating odds, weighing risks, sketching outcomes. You think of it as intuition, but really, it is 1,000 hidden calculations surfacing as a single feeling. And the eerie detail is that those feelings can sometimes predict events with startling accuracy. You felt it before, the sudden urge to turn down a different street, the inexplicable unease when entering a room, the strange certainty that a friend is about to call. Later, when those hunches align with reality, you're left wondering if the subconscious had been whispering all along. You imagine yourself at a crowded train station. People move around you in swirls of motion, their footsteps echoing on tile. You don't notice every detail, but your subconscious does. The rhythm of footsteps, the tension in someone's shoulders, the way a hand lingers near a pocket.
Without realizing it, your mind is building probabilities. Something is about to happen, though you don't know what. The air feels charged, and a part of you is already bracing for it. Researchers still wonder how much of this quiet oracle can be trusted. Experiments in psychology show that people often detect patterns before they consciously recognize them. In one study, participants played a card game where the odds were stacked. Long before they could explain the strategy, their subconscious had already begun guiding their choices, their bodies sweating slightly at bad options, relaxing with good ones. The mind knew before the mouth could say. And so you reflect. Maybe the subconscious is not mystical at all. It is simply faster, deeper, more attuned to the signals that the surface self ignores. Yet even knowing this, the mystery lingers. If your hidden mind can sense so much, how far into the future does its reach extend? Is intuition a glimpse of tomorrow, or only a deeper reading of the present moment? An unusual detail rises, soft and haunting. In the days before the 9/11 attacks, the stock market saw peculiar shifts with unusual trades suggesting that some investors anticipated what was to come. Many dismissed it as coincidence, but some researchers speculated whether collective subconscious unease had leaked into actions before the event itself. A group mind, sensing the storm on the horizon, even if no individual could explain why. You let yourself imagine the subconscious as a quiet oracle sitting in the dark, gathering fragments. It doesn't speak in words or logic. It speaks in sensations. The tightening of your stomach, the whisper of unease, the sudden lightness of relief. To ignore it is easy, but to listen is to accept that much of your life is guided by knowledge you cannot name. The reflection deepens. Perhaps this is why ancient cultures spoke of omens and signs, not because they believed the future was fixed, but because they knew the human spirit could detect patterns long before reason did. A flock of birds scattering at once, a sudden silence in the forest. These were the subconscious observations of generations, wrapped in myth so they would not be forgotten. And here you are, centuries later, still guided by the same hidden maps. You walk into a conversation already knowing its tone. You step into a new place already sensing its weight. The subconscious carries you quietly, like a river moving beneath the ice, invisible, but always in motion. You rest with this thought now, letting it feel less like an answer and more like a lullaby. You don't need to know how far the subconscious can see. You only need to accept that it is there, steady and silent, gathering tomorrow in its arms while you float gently on the surface. The train station fades from your mind, its echoes dissolving into silence, and you are left with only the hum of the oracle beneath you, carrying you forward without needing to be seen.
You are still drifting, somewhere between waking and sleeping. The thought lingers. Perhaps your brain does not live in the same now you believe in. Perhaps it is always a fraction behind. It is not a delay you notice. The world feels immediate. When you touch a surface, the hardness seems instant. When you hear a sound, it seems to happen right there, right then. But beneath this seamlessness is a hidden gap, a tiny pause. The brain takes time to process, to assemble, to create the version of reality you feel. Imagine lightning striking on a dark horizon. The light flashes across the sky, and almost instantly after, the thunder follows. Yet your brain handles these signals unevenly. Light is processed quickly, sound more slowly. If your mind were truly anchored to the outside world in real time, your perception would be fractured, a broken mosaic of delays. But that is not what you experience. Instead, your mind waits, holding the faster signals, delaying them just enough so they can align with the slower ones. This is why the world feels whole. The brain sacrifices immediacy for harmony. What you feel as now is already the past, a constructed illusion, smoothed out and edited by the nervous system. And here is the strange part. Because you are always slightly late, the brain compensates. It predicts, it fills in, it pushes forward into the future to give you the experience of continuity. Think of a ball rolling across a table. Your eyes see it, but by the time the signal reaches your brain, the ball has already moved a fraction further. If your perception were raw, unprocessed, the ball would always seem behind where it truly is. But it does not. You see it in the right place, flowing smoothly, never lagging. The only way this works is prediction. The brain guesses the ball's future position, and most of the time it is correct. Every moment, reality is stitched together from two threads: the slightly outdated sensory input and the prediction of what is about to happen. You never live in the pure present. You live in a blend of memory and forecast. This is why your brain sometimes makes mistakes. When someone speaks and their lips move out of sync, you notice the jarring disconnection. When a magician performs a trick, your mind fills in what should have happened, only to be fooled. The brain is not wrong, it is simply guessing ahead, and occasionally, reality does not cooperate. It makes you wonder, if your brain already bends time for the sake of perception, how far does this reach? How much of your daily experience is memory? How much is prediction? And how little is true present? The thought drifts deeper, becoming softer, more dreamlike. You begin to sense that your consciousness is less like a camera recording the world, and more like a storyteller, weaving fragments into a smooth narrative. You are not watching reality unfold second by second. You are receiving the final draft, already edited, already filled in, already aligned. Even your sense of self, the you drifting through the day, may be part of this continuous story. A story not told in real time, but in a careful rhythm of past and prediction. Close your eyes and imagine a vast theater. On the stage, actors perform a play. Behind the curtains, a director rearranges the order of lines, shifts the timing, corrects the flow so that everything feels seamless to the audience. You are both the audience and the actor. You experience the play as if it is live, yet much of it has already been rearranged behind the scenes. Your brain is that director, and time itself, for you, is the performance. The deeper you sink into this realization, the more dreamlike it becomes. What if this hidden delay is not a weakness, but a design? What if the brain evolved not to capture reality perfectly, but to shape it into something survivable, something coherent enough to guide your movements, your choices, your life? After all, perfect perception would be too late. By the time you saw danger, it would already be upon you. By the time you heard the predator's step, it would already be too close. You need anticipation. You need foresight. So your brain cheats. It trades truth for prediction. And perhaps, in doing so, it gives you something more than survival. Perhaps it gives you the strange, ghostly sensation that you sometimes know what comes next. A word on the tip of your tongue, a friend calling just as you were about to call them. A sense of the traffic light changing before it does. Small things, fleeting things, yet they remind you of the brain's hidden clockwork. The line between memory and foresight grows thin. You realize the present is not solid ground, but a blur. A sliding window, always shifting, always adjusting, always slightly behind and slightly ahead. It is not frightening. It is gentle, a soft, rhythmic weaving of time designed to carry you smoothly through the flow of life. And as you feel this, the thought begins to settle. You breathe, slow and steady. The world outside grows quiet. You are drifting with the awareness that your now is not fixed. It is a compromise, a beautiful illusion, sculpted by your brain to keep you safe, connected, whole. The delay shapes your reality, the prediction fills the gaps, and you, the dreamer, drift on, floating in a present that is always memory, part future.
Imagine for a moment that your mind is not a fixed machine, but a coastline, touched endlessly by invisible tides. Some of these tides are gentle, predictable rhythms, the rising and falling of your heartbeat, the slow inhalation and exhalation of breath. Others are more subtle, almost secretive, like the faint electrical hum beneath your thoughts or the chemical whispers drifting between your neurons. Scientists once believed that the brain responded only to what had already happened, like an echo chamber faithfully replaying the world after it arrived. But as studies in the early 21st century began to reveal, the brain is not simply reactive, it is anticipatory. Its patterns move slightly ahead of the present, as if it leans forward in time, preparing for what it suspects will come next. This phenomenon is often called anticipatory activity. When you are about to make a choice, say pressing a button on a screen, your brain signals that decision a fraction of a second before you consciously know it. It is as if your awareness lags behind the deeper machinery. And in more mysterious experiments, when volunteers are shown images at random, the body sometimes registers subtle changes, tiny shifts in heart rate, faint adjustments in skin conductance, even before the chosen picture appears. The tides, it seems, begin to stir before the wave breaks. But here is where the story becomes dreamlike, a little slippery. To say that your brain sees the future is not quite right, but not entirely wrong. It is more accurate to say that your brain is always guessing, not in words or images, but in layered patterns of probability. It builds a model of what the world will most likely present in the next heartbeat, in the next breath. Sometimes that model is so finely tuned that it looks almost prophetic. Picture yourself walking through a forest path at dusk. The light is low, the air damp with the scent of moss. Your ears catch the faintest rustle among the leaves. Before you can even think, your muscles tighten. Your eyes adjust, ready to detect movement. You have not seen the creature yet, but your body is already preparing, sculpted by countless generations of survival. In that moment, your brain is not simply reacting, it is rehearsing the immediate future. And the rehearsal is so seamless that you only notice it when it goes wrong. When you mistake a shadow for a predator or a branch for a snake. What does this mean for the mystery of precognition, the eerie sense that sometimes we know things before they happen?
Some researchers argue that it is a side effect of this anticipatory system, a kind of heightened sensitivity to probability. The brain leans forward, the body responds, and occasionally the guess lines up perfectly with reality. But the subjective experience feels larger than that. It feels like stepping into the future itself, if only by a breath. And so cultures have long wrapped this sensation in myth, in prophecy, in the language of dreams. You may have felt it yourself. The phone rings and you know who it is before you look. A friend walks into the cafe and you knew they would appear, though you had not planned to meet. These moments flicker like small breaches in the wall of time. Science offers one explanation, intuition another, and yet the sensation lingers, uncanny and luminous. As you drift deeper into this thought, let your breathing slow. Imagine your own mind as an ocean's surface. Beneath the ripples of awareness, beneath the rolling waves of conscious thought, deeper currents swirl. They do not obey the same boundaries of time. They flow continuously, carrying fragments of memory, faint signals from the body, hints from the environment around you. When those currents surge upward, breaking through to the surface, you sometimes feel them as a nudge, a hunch, a glimpse ahead. Not a clear photograph of tomorrow, but the faint silhouette of what is coming, rising like a shadow beneath the water. You might wonder how much of your daily life is shaped not by reaction, but by this subtle leaning forward. Every step you take, every word you speak, is carried slightly ahead of the present, as though you're already stepping into a moment before it fully exists. Perhaps this is why dreams of the future feel so familiar when they arrive. Perhaps you are always half living tomorrow. And now, as your eyelids grow heavier, imagine that your thoughts are not bound to a single moment, but ripple outward like concentric circles on a lake. Each circle touches the next, expanding beyond what you can immediately see. Your mind is both the stone and the water, both the cause and the unfolding pattern. It is not that you see the future, it is that you are already entangled with it, like the tide that knows the pull of the moon before the water begins to rise. So let yourself drift with that tide now. The brain, soft and luminous, folds itself around possibility. Your body exhales. The coastline of thought grows quiet. And just beyond the horizon of awareness, tomorrow is already whispering.
You are still drifting, somewhere between the clear edge of waking thought and the slow descent into dream. The previous murmurs about intuition still cling to you, like a faint mist that is not yet lifted. And now a new question begins to form in your mind, almost uninvited. If the brain can sense patterns of light and warmth, can it also sense the shadows before they appear? You imagine yourself standing in a quiet room. The curtains are closed, but faint light seeps through the fabric, painting gentle stripes on the floor. You notice your body tensing, not because of anything you can see, but because of something you think you might see. A trick of anticipation, a prediction whispered by your nervous system before your conscious mind has a chance to catch up. Scientists have studied this phenomenon in surprising ways. They present subjects with random sequences, flashes of light, sounds, or even images that appear without pattern. And yet, again and again, the brain seems to lean forward, to prepare, as though it knows which moment will bring a sudden change. Is it guessing? Is it reading invisible cues? Or is it something stranger, something that stretches beyond the tidy explanations of science?
The thought makes you feel a kind of soft unease. Not fear, exactly. More like the sensation of standing at the edge of a forest at dusk, when the air itself feels charged with possibility. Your heartbeat slows, then quickens, and you are not sure whether it is responding to the world outside or the world inside. As you breathe, you recall how animals often move before storms. Birds take flight in sudden waves. Dogs pace or whine, their ears pricked toward something just beyond human hearing. Deep beneath the ocean, fish scatter before distant earthquakes. These creatures seem to live in tune with subtle frequencies of the earth, vibrations that human senses have dulled or forgotten. But perhaps, in quiet moments, your own body still remembers. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, there are no strict borders. Shapes appear before they vanish. A faint glow, a ripple, then a shadow that grows and dissolves again. You cannot tell if your mind is creating them or if they are arriving from some other place, carried on currents you cannot measure. A theory whispers to you. Perhaps the brain is not always locked into the present. Perhaps its machinery is tuned to probabilities, constantly rehearsing the next step before it arrives. Like a chess player seeing several moves ahead, your neurons may be simulating the world countless times each second, and the version that matches reality is the one you notice. To experience the present, then, might simply be to live inside the brain's best guess. This idea comforts you in a strange way. It means that the small flickers of déjà vu, the times when you feel you have stood in this exact place before, are not accidents. They are the mind's echoes, fragments of a rehearsal you did not know you were performing. The shadows of moments felt before they fully arrive. You think about the way light travels across the universe. When you look up at a star, you are not seeing it as it is, but as it once was. The glow left its surface years, centuries, or millennia ago, and only now has it reached your eyes. The night sky is full of predictions fulfilled, messages from the past that shaped your present. If the cosmos itself bends time into layers, then perhaps your brain, a small mirror of that vastness, does something similar. There is a calmness in letting this thought expand. You realize that you do not need to solve the puzzle. The shadows you anticipate do not have to be explained. They can be felt, acknowledged, and then released. Like a breeze through an open window, they come and they go. Your body softens into the rhythm of breath. Each inhale draws in the possibility of futures not yet here. Each exhale releases the weight of needing to know. The more you surrender, the more you notice subtle currents flowing beneath thought, guiding you gently forward. And as you rest in this space, you wonder, maybe the brain does not so much see the future as it does listen to it, like an ear pressed against a wall, catching the faintest vibrations from what lies ahead. You drift with that thought, as if floating just above the floor of a darkened room, where shadows lengthen and fade, and time itself feels less like a straight line and more like a tide moving back and forth.
You are floating now, drifting into a space where thought itself has become slow, like honey sliding down glass. The idea of prediction has carried you across landscapes of memory, glimpses of possibility, and now into something stranger, something older. Instinct. A word that sounds simple, almost small. But instinct is not a minor flicker. It is the voice of countless generations speaking through you. When you hesitate at a cliff edge, when you feel your stomach tighten before walking into a darkened alley, when you sense a silence in the room that seems heavier than it should be, that is instinct. And instinct may be the closest thing your brain has to seeing the future. Imagine for a moment that you are not entirely you, that you are a vessel. Inside you, carried in the architecture of your nervous system, are the lessons of ancestors who survived because they could anticipate, react, and move before danger struck. The quick dart of the rabbit, the cautious glance of the bird, the tension in a mother holding her child, these are written into you like lines of a code you did not compose. You do not think instinct, you feel it. It arrives uninvited, sudden, undeniable. The hairs rising on your arms, the tingle at the back of your neck, the sudden pause in conversation when something shifts beneath the surface. You cannot quite explain it, and yet you obey. Instinct bypasses logic. Instinct is older than words. It is prediction woven into your bones. But how? How does your brain produce these whispers of warning, these flashes of possibility? Scientists sometimes describe it as a fast pathway. Instead of taking the scenic route of careful thought, information rushes through a shortcut in the brain, activating circuits of survival before you are even aware of them. You jump before you know what startled you. You turn your head before the sound fully forms in your ears. You stop breathing when a shadow crosses too near. And in these moments, you are not reacting to the present. You are preparing for the immediate future. Instinct makes a leap. It fills the gap between what is and what is about to be. It is, in a sense, your brain predicting what comes next. Close your eyes and let yourself imagine standing in a forest at dusk. The air is thick with the scent of moss and damp earth. The light is fading, and with it your ability to clearly see. You hear a rustle behind you. Your body stiffens before your mind can name it. The muscles in your legs are already taut, ready to run. Your heart has quickened, preparing to pump blood faster. Your lungs inhale sharply as if to fuel a sudden sprint. You are not waiting to know what the sound is. Your body is already predicting what it could mean. In that moment, instinct is the bridge to survival. It may not be accurate. Perhaps it is only a harmless rabbit or the wind in leaves. But your brain cannot risk waiting, so it imagines the future for you. It sees danger before your eyes do. And yet, instinct is not always about fear. Think of how you sometimes know what a loved one will say before they speak, or how you reach to catch a glass falling from a counter before it has fully begun its descent. Instinct lives not only in dread, but also in the elegance of seamless motion. A dancer landing before wobble sets in, a driver swerving before the car ahead even brakes, a child laughing just before a parent tickles them. These are futures glimpsed not through reason, but through something swifter, something embedded deep within. Instinct feels like a whisper, but it is really a symphony of ancient voices. Millions of years of trial and error encoded into you. A chain of survivors, each one handing forward not just genes, but the wiring of caution, of reflex, of readiness. You are not only predicting, you are carrying prophecy written in the nervous system of the human story. And here's a thought. Perhaps instinct is not just about survival, but about trust. Because when you listen to it, you surrender. You let your body, your subconscious, your hidden self guide you. You allow the unseen part of your brain to steer you into the next moment. You give yourself to the possibility that prediction can arise without thought. In this there is something soothing, something that invites rest. You do not need to plan everything. You do not need to prepare every step. Instinct will hold some of the weight for you. Your body already knows how to keep you alive. Your mind can quiet, just for now. And so, as you lie here, half dreaming, let yourself feel the hum of instinct in you, the quiet readiness, the timeless alertness that has carried humanity forward, that has guided you to this moment. It is still here, steady, silent. You are safe enough to drift. You are safe enough to release. Instinct may be the future whispered into your nerves. It may be the unseen prediction carrying you a fraction of a second ahead of the world. And in that space, in that subtle, anticipatory breath, you find not fear, but a strange comfort. The comfort of knowing that part of you has always been watching ahead. Rest now. Let instinct guard the path, while your mind drifts further into quiet.
You have wandered through the quiet hallways of your mind, tracing the echoes of anticipation and the flickering lamps of memory. Now, in this drifting chapter, you find yourself resting beside something subtler, something almost hidden beneath the noise of thought itself, the quiet hum of probability. Think of it as a soft mist that spreads across your awareness. It does not speak in commands. It does not shout in visions. Instead, it murmurs like a stream beneath the earth, faint, persistent, shaping the contours of the future without ever declaring what it will be. Probability is not a prophecy. It is a gentle leaning, the smallest tilt in the direction of what might happen next. Close your eyes and imagine a dice held in your hand. The cube feels cool, the edges sharp. You know, with a kind of quiet certainty, that when it falls, one of 6 numbers will face upward. That certainty is not about the outcome itself, but about the limits of possibility. You may not know the exact number, but your brain relaxes into the knowledge that there are only 6 doors it could open. Now picture yourself stepping into a forest at dusk. The light is fading, but your eyes catch the subtle signs, the way the wind carries a hint of rain, the tremor of leaves that betray the presence of a small animal, the low hum of thunder waiting beyond the horizon. Your mind, without effort, begins to predict. The rain may come soon. The squirrel may dart across your path. The evening may fall into shadow faster than you expect. Each thought is not a prophecy, but a probability, a gentle arrangement of futures. This is how the brain sees ahead, not as a film already written, but as a branching tree of outcomes. Each branch holds a different possibility, and your mind, like a quiet cartographer, sketches the map without even asking your permission. It is why you can walk across a crowded street without panic, why you can reach out your hand to catch a falling glass before it shatters, why you sometimes pause just before someone speaks, as if you already knew their words were coming. But here is the curious thing. Probability
often whispers louder than reality itself. Sometimes you feel you know what will happen and you prepare for it. You brace for the rain, and the rain never comes. You expect the phone to ring, and it stays silent. You lean into the future your mind painted, only to discover that the brushstrokes were illusions. And yet, this does not make the brain foolish. It makes it human. It shows that the act of prediction is not about being right, but about keeping you ready. As you drift deeper into this thought, let your breathing slow. Imagine probability as a field of fireflies stretching before you. Each glowing spark is a potential future, flickering on and off, appearing and vanishing. Some glow longer than others. Some hover closer to your path. Others drift far away, unlikely, but not impossible. You walk forward, surrounded by them, never knowing which will land in your hands. And yet, you keep moving, comforted by their light. There is something almost tender about this process. The brain does not demand certainty. It simply gathers fragments, weighs shadows, and offers you a soft direction. It is like a friend who cannot promise what tomorrow holds, but who walks beside you anyway, pointing quietly to the places you might step. And so you live, not in a single future, but in a constellation of possibilities. The mind stretches itself across them like a thin veil, always reaching forward. It is this veil that makes you pause before danger, or smile before someone speaks a word of kindness, or sense the turn of a story before the page is turned. It is not prophecy, it is probability. Let this thought cradle you now. Feel the faint hum of your own brain's whispers, not commands, not certainties, but suggestions. You are surrounded by them every moment, in the way your hand expects the weight of a cup, in the way your ears prepare for the next note of a song, in the way your heart pauses before an answer. And as you sink further into rest, know this: the future is not a locked door. It is a hallway of many doors, and your mind, patient and gentle, is always listening for the hinges to move. The whispers guide you, softly, towards sleep.
You are lying deeper now, drifting through the gentle tide of your own thoughts, as if the room has grown wider and quieter, like a vast cavern beneath the world. The story continues in its slow unfolding, and you are safe within it. There is nothing urgent, nothing sharp, only the low hum of wonder and the steady breath of time itself. You might recall how, not long ago, you heard of experiments where the brain seemed to twitch a fraction of a second before you made a choice. A fingertip rising, a key pressed, a flicker in the brain just before the conscious decision. This was a kind of shadow time, where choice seemed to live not in the present moment, but in the faint shimmer just ahead of it. Now, imagine yourself standing on the very thin edge between this moment and the next. You look down at your feet. The ground beneath your left foot is labeled now. The ground beneath your right foot is labeled just ahead. They are nearly indistinguishable, almost touching, yet they are not the same. You begin to wonder, when you move, are you stepping forward because you decided to, or because something inside you already saw it coming? This edge, this in-between, is delicate. It is where the brain plays its secret game of anticipation,
like a musician raising a bow a split second before the note, like a bird flexing its wings a heartbeat before the leap. The act has not yet happened, but the script is already unfolding. Scientists sometimes call it predictive coding. Your brain is not waiting for the world to arrive. It is building the world in advance, sketching its outlines, filling in its shadows, and then comparing those guesses to what your senses deliver. You never truly experience the raw present. You experience your brain's best prediction, corrected and adjusted by reality's feedback. That means the now you live in has already been prepared, painted, smoothed over. The brain has guessed what color the next second will be. It has guessed the texture of the air, the tilt of someone's voice, the weight of the ground beneath your step. And most of the time, it guesses right. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you picture yourself walking through a corridor of lamps. Each lamp is a second. Each flicker is the brain's guess at what will happen next. Sometimes the light is steady and sure. Sometimes it wavers like a flame in a draft. Yet still, you walk forward, and the lamps seem to light your path just before your foot touches the floor. The thought feels both comforting and eerie. Comforting because it suggests you are cared for by your own inner guide, a silent architect making sure the world is ready when you arrive. Eerie because it suggests that you might be a passenger boarding the train only after the route is already drawn. As you drift deeper into this thought, your body grows softer, heavier, sinking into the mattress, like a stone settling gently into sand. You imagine each inhale as a glance toward the future, and each exhale as the body's agreement to let go of the present. The rhythm continues, slow and steady. You think of the people you've seen who can almost feel an event before it happens. The tennis player leaning before the ball leaves the racket. The musician tightening their fingers before the next note has begun. The parent sensing their child's cry before the sound reaches their ears. These are not mystic powers, but the sharpened art of prediction, an intuition so well trained it feels supernatural. And so, the question lingers. Can your brain see the future? Not the far future. Not the destiny etched years ahead, but the thin edge, the whisper of the second to come, the trembling veil between now and soon. The corridor of lamps stretches out before you. The lights flicker on one by one, always just in time. You notice that you are not anxious about the darkness ahead. You trust the lamps. You trust the rhythm. You trust that your brain will keep lighting the way, second by second, as long as you need it to. And slowly, as you let yourself lean into that trust, the edge softens. The difference between now and soon dissolves. You are both here and about to be here. You are both present and arriving. The hum in your thoughts grows quieter. The lamps in the corridor dim, and you feel with a strange calmness that whether or not your brain can see the future, it has already carried you safely into it.
You notice how quiet the world around you has become. The ticking clock, once sharp, now feels muted, as though each second is softened by a cushion of silence. Your breathing is slow, your thoughts gentle. And in that softened space, a question lingers. What does it mean to anticipate? Not just to think ahead, but to feel ahead. Anticipation is not just intellectual, it is emotional. Imagine standing on a cliff, gazing at the horizon, waiting for the sun to rise. You cannot yet see the light, but your body prepares. Your skin tingles with the coolness of dawn. Your chest expands as if it already expects warmth, and your mind rehearses the relief of daylight. The future is not here, and yet your body whispers as though it knows what is coming. This, too, is your brain's subtle miracle. It does not only calculate and measure, it breathes into the unknown. A child waiting for their birthday, a traveler stepping into an airport, a musician before the first note. Anticipation makes the invisible almost tangible. The event has not arrived, and yet the mind decorates it with color, shape, and sound. Perhaps your brain's quietest ability is this: to live twice, once in the present and once in the echo of the future. When you anticipate joy, your body floods with warmth before the joy itself arrives. When you anticipate sorrow, your chest grows heavy before the tears ever fall. In this way, the future is not only something you reach, it is something that seeps backward into your now. And in this dreamlike state, anticipation itself feels like a soft thread, pulling you forward without force. You drift toward tomorrow like a leaf on a slow-moving stream. You don't need to paddle or rush or decide. You simply follow. The stream of time carries you, and your brain, so quietly, keeps weaving hints of what lies downstream. There is comfort in this, because even if the future cannot be fully known, even if it remains a mystery veiled by fog, your brain creates murmurs, small fragments, gentle shadows that remind you you will arrive and you will be ready. And as your eyes grow heavier, you might notice how anticipation itself is a kind of lullaby, a waiting, a leaning, the gentle reaching. The future does not need to be seized. It only needs to be welcomed when it comes. For now, anticipation itself is enough. You breathe, you wait, you soften into the rhythm of expectation, and with each heartbeat, you are already halfway into tomorrow, while still resting safely in today.
Time is usually imagined as a straight line, one moment neatly following another, like beads strung together on a thin wire. But when you are drifting, as you are now, time becomes less certain. It softens, it folds, it collapses into itself like fabric being gathered in a hand. The beginning and the end blur, and the space in between feels strangely endless. Perhaps you have noticed this before, in small ways. A long train ride that seems to vanish when you recall it later. A night of laughter with friends that feels like it passed in a blink, even though it stretched for hours. Or the opposite, a single anxious minute expanding until it feels larger than an entire day. Time does not always obey the neat grid of clocks. Inside you, time bends. And here, in this quiet, it bends again. Your breath is both present and ancient, each inhale new, but also echoing countless inhales that came before. Your heartbeat is steady, but if you listen closely, you might feel that it is not only yours. It is the pulse of everyone who has ever rested, ever slowed, ever drifted. Time, in these moments, collapses into something wider than a line. It becomes a pool, a still surface where all moments coexist like reflections. The gentle collapse of time is not frightening. It is freeing. Because when time is soft, you are no longer pressured by its weight. You do not need to race toward tomorrow or cling to yesterday. You simply float. The minutes no longer matter.
The hours dissolve. There is only now, endlessly repeating, endlessly welcoming you. Your brain, too, slips into this collapse. Patterns that once marched forward, one thought after another, now overlap like ripples in water. Memories surface beside dreams, and dreams blend with sensation. You feel a boundary loosening, as if you could lean slightly and step from this night into another, without effort. And the more you surrender, the more you realize, perhaps time was never as rigid as you believed. Perhaps it was always soft, always pliable, always waiting to collapse into something gentler. In this space, you can rest without fear of missing anything, for nothing is truly passing you by. It all waits within the pool of time, circling softly, ready to be touched when you need it. You are cradled here, not by hours or days, but by the collapse itself, by the wide, quiet truth that there is no rush and no end.
At the end of every journey, there is a horizon. Sometimes it is sharp and golden, like the edge of dawn. Sometimes it is hazy, like mist curling over a field. And sometimes, as it is now, the horizon is not outside you at all, but inside. It is the quiet place your thoughts drift toward, the place where everything slows, the place that welcomes you without asking questions. You may think of a horizon as far away, unreachable, but the truth is, you carry it within you. Every time you close your eyes, every time your breath steadies, every time the restless noise of the world dissolves into a hush, you step closer to it. It is not a destination you travel to, it is a state you return to, like a familiar room waiting just beyond the door of sleep. Here, in this last stretch, the horizon feels nearer. Your body is heavy, but in a way that comforts you, as though gravity itself is tucking you in. Your breath is even, soft, like waves brushing the shore again and again. The horizon rises gently inside you, wide and calm, and you are ready to cross into it. And when you do, there is no need for words, no need for thought, only the sensation of release. The endless line you once saw in the distance dissolves, and instead of standing before it, you find yourself already within it. You are the horizon, and the horizon is you, boundless, quiet, unbroken. In this place, you are safe. In this place, you are whole. In this place, sleep gathers around you like a tide, carrying you softly forward into dreams. Rest now. The story does not end because horizons never end. They only widen. You are drifting into that widening, and it will hold you through the night.